I'm Natasha Kirchak, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel arrests a senior Hamas operative in the West Bank. Two Israeli teens take getting grounded to a whole new level after they're caught running a multi-million-dollar cybercrime operation. And yet another historical discovery is unearthed in the Holy Land. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. The Hamas rulers of the Gaza Strip have partially reopened the border today. It was sealed on Sunday amid efforts to trap the killers of one of the terror group's senior commanders, Mazen Foucault. Exit from the Erez crossing is now being permitted for Hamas politicians, Palestinians in need of medical treatment, and the families of prisoners. That's, of course, as long as those wishing to leave are under the age of 15 or over 45. The terror group says the restrictions only apply to men. They also say entry is open for anyone who wants to come in. The key checkpoint was slammed shut following the shooting death of a convicted Palestinian terrorist by unknown assailants in Gaza on Friday. The Islamist leaders are blaming Israel and are vowing retaliation against the Jewish state. Speaking of Hamas, Israel has just arrested a senior operative from the terror group, only this time in the West Bank city of Tulkarem. ILTV's Aaron Porras joins us with the details. Aaron?
Well, Rafat Nassif was one of the 14 people arrested last night in raids all across the West Bank for throwing rocks and organizing violent demonstrations. Let's check out my report for more.
Nassif is a member of Hamas's Politburo. He was arrested last May and subsequently released about a month ago. Israel's Security Bureau, the Shin Bet, re-arrested Nassif, however, after becoming aware of increased Hamas-related activity around his home. Israeli intelligence sources say that his detention is linked to the ongoing elections Hamas is holding in the West Bank. The vote is currently being held in secret as to prevent Israeli intelligence services from arresting the terror group's new leadership.
Talk that Washington might move its embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv is reviving after U.S. Vice President Mike Pence told an enthusiastic crowd of Israel supporters that U.S. President Donald Trump is still seriously thinking about the matter. The second in command made the spirited statement at the annual policy conference of the AIPAC American-Israel Public Affairs Committee.
And under President Donald Trump, if the world knows nothing else, the world will know this: America stands with Israel. And know this, after decades of simply talking about it, the President of the United States is giving serious consideration to moving the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Even though U.S. President Donald Trump often spoke about relocating the embassy while he was running for office, the contentious issue has been moved to the back burner since his election. Israel regards Jerusalem as its eternal and indivisible capital and wants all countries to base their embassies there. But many U.S. allies strongly oppose the move because the Palestinians also lay claim to the city as the capital of their future state. A U.S. embassy move would be seen as an explicit recognition of Israeli sovereignty and might predetermine the outcome of any eventual peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians. But nevertheless, Trump's pick as a next ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, strongly favors moving the diplomatic compound to Jerusalem, and his appointment was just confirmed by the U.S. Senate. In the meantime, the U.S. Vice President took advantage of his speech at AIPAC to take aim at extremist Islamic terror.
And in President Trump, America has a leader who will call our enemies by their name. Just last week in London, in the shadow of Parliament, radical Islamic terrorism reared its ugly head, claiming the lives of innocent civilians, including an American. At this very moment, our administration is crafting plans to defeat radical Islamic terrorism so it can no longer bring violence to our enemies, to our allies, or inspire violence here at home. And let me be clear, President Trump is working with our military. The American people can know this. We will hunt down and destroy ISIS at its source so it can no longer threaten our people, our allies, or our most cherished ally, Israel.
Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations is condemning the UN for its criticism of Israeli settlement policy and decision to call Israel an apartheid state. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz sat down with Dan Diker from the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs, who says that the UN's continual targeting of Israel is not going unanswered.
Steve, anybody that's taken a basic course on racism and xenophobia or visited or participated in the 2001 Durban Conference on Racism and Xenophobia in Durban, South Africa, realizes the absurdity of the comparison between Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people and the monstrous former system of apartheid South Africa. Even South African former BDS leaders, whom I met with in 2016 in South Africa, are calling publicly this type of comparison totally slanderous and libelous. And the fact that the UN had, for a moment, issued such a report is not only an insult to the intelligence of the international community. It is really the ultimate, represents the ultimate moral disintegration of the United Nations.
The report was actually written by Richard Falk. What do we know about him?
Well, Richard Falk was the former special raconteur for the Middle East of the United Nations, and he's somebody that's persona non grata in Israel, left to right, for his egregiously anti-Israel and even anti-Semitic positions. And so he has very little credibility in the international community. And Rima Khalaf is a former deputy prime minister of Jordan. And anyone who knows anything about the Middle East knows that Jordan itself has serious problems on the issues of human rights and equality with regard to the Palestinians and others in that country. So for her to be writing such a report really represents, some may say, the ultimate irony.
Israel did not stand alone in this case. Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, was quick to speak out. And also the new Secretary General was very quick to denounce the report and get rid of the person who authored it.
I think the good news about this very unfortunate episode is that the UN did act appropriately, and Israel's best friend and ally, the United States, under President Trump, the president had clearly instructed Ambassador Haley to take action and blast the report, which she did, as every patriotic American and ally of the State of Israel has done in the past. So there is really some silver lining in this unfortunate incident, and one would hope that the United Nations would keep on monitoring itself for these types of very unfortunately and morally repugnant types of propagandistic reports against any free democratic state in the UN system.
Dan Diker, thanks so much for being with us at ILTV.
Thank you.
Yet another American Jewish facility has been evacuated after becoming the target of yet another bomb threat. Interestingly, the incident came after Israel arrested a teenager suspected of perpetrating most of the 120-plus fake attacks that have been plaguing the community for months.
The Aaron family JCC in Dallas, Texas was evacuated after receiving a threatening telephone call on Thursday. That's the same MO allegedly used by the suspect in Israel, but he'd already been behind bars for several hours at the time of the latest incident. The Dallas Center was closed during a search of the premises, but regular activity resumed within a short time. The same building was targeted by two previous threats. One prompted a similar evacuation in January, but the other hoax came by email earlier this month. It was only discovered several days after being sent in the computer spam folder, so no action was taken. Looks like that threat didn't come close to causing the kind of panic the perpetrator was hoping for.
Diplomatic ties between France and Israel are being put to the test. A new report by a French newspaper is alleging that the Israeli Mossad spy agency has attempted to infiltrate French agencies to collect information and recruit double agents. ILTV's Aaron Porras is back with more. Aaron, what is Le Monde saying?
Well, Le Monde's accusations are based on a report released by DGSI, which is France's spy agency. The explosive expose is basically covering the years-long ties between and cooperation between Israeli Mossad and DGSI agents, and how they work together over the past several years.
Let's check out your report.
Le Monde's accusations are based in a report released by the DGSI, or France's spy agency. The DGSI report outlines how agents from both the Mossad and the DGSI were assigned to a joint operation in 2010, but developed unsanctioned and inappropriate relationships with one another. The operation was to collect information regarding Syria's weapons of mass destruction capabilities. Independently, another branch of the DGSI French spy agency was tasked with tracking the Mossad agents' movements in France, thus uncovering the relationships. Detailed in the DGSI report, the Mossad agents allegedly used their good rapport with their French counterparts throughout the years-long operation codenamed Ratafia in efforts to recruit them, apparently using money and gifts. Among the suspects are French intelligence consultant and former DGSI head Bernard Squarcini.
Now get this, 2 Israeli teenagers aren't going to think getting grounded is such a big deal anymore now that they're facing charges for committing cybercrime. It looks like the super smart adolescents lack the maturity to properly direct their talents.
A duo of Israeli hackers face accusations that they created and sold software around the world that was designed to overload their clients' computers. Their online system, called Vidus, allegedly brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars before complaints were filed. Police say the teen entrepreneurs now face serious charges, including fraud and extortion, for having allegedly caused around $1.6 million in damage. Investigation began after Israeli authorities were tipped off by the FBI last September. Sweden's also said to be involved in the probe. Both of the suspects are now 18 years old, and they deny any wrongdoing. One redeeming quality that's undisputed, at least, is that they reportedly refuse to sell their product to anyone intending to target Israeli websites.
Whether you're a brand new entrepreneur or the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you probably understand how important it is to stay connected to your customers and investors. Well, one Israeli company is now offering a way to keep everyone in the loop with just one quick and easy program. Here to tell us more is Ophir Griner, the division manager of Print Boss at Consist Technologies. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Thanks for joining us. So what is Print Boss? Tell us about this.
Print Boss is actually a CCM solution, customer communication management solution. Means it can manage all the communication channels between the organization and its entities. For example, the organization and its customers, the organization and its business partner, the organization and its suppliers. And such kind of solution based actually on 4 layers. The first layer is the design, the second layer is the production, the third layer the distribution, and the fourth layer is actually the management of all the documents, all the business documents.
So break this down for us in simple terms, for those of us who just don't understand how this works at all. Now, you are you're keeping track of contact between investors and clients, correct?
Between, for example, organization and its customer. I will give an example. For example, someone is doing an accident, okay? Mm-hmm. Instead, you will get a form, a document form, and will fill it with the hand, and will send it via fax to the organization. You can call, for example, to the call center. Mm-hmm. The call center can, with him, build a document, can send him this document via SMS. The customer can fill out the document. In some difficulties, the customer representative can connect via a co-browsing method, can connect to the form, can actually guide the customer in filling the form. The customer can, for example, attach pictures of the cars, okay? He can fill the form, he will sign it, and in the end of this process, all this data will be proceeded to the organization, and all this process can be very quick procedured.
Very interesting. Now, what is the difference between Print Boss and other marketing tools that currently exist right now?
First of all, we have is the high volume printing. We support a high volume production and print. That's the first issue. The second issue is that we actually have more models compared to other solutions. I gave you the model of co-browsing, also a model of workflow management, okay? That in, for example, if you had an invoice and you have several people that need to approve this invoice, our solution can do it, okay? The third model is actually all this customer journey. I will give an example. If a customer wants to move from printing to digital invoice, our solution can see it and can design the template invoice according to this request. For example, in electronic invoice, it can add banners. It can add coupons, okay? It can add, for example, in the end of the invoice, feedbacks from the customer to the organization.
So tell me, is this, is PrintBoss available already for customers around the world? How does it work?
Yeah, we have more than 100 customers in Israel, major customers, for example, banks, insurance companies, energies. Around the world, we have more than 200 customers, for example, BMW, Tommy, Caterpillar in England, ADAP, the water company of Greece. We have two major companies, or two major customers in South of America, okay? Light, the energy company of Rio de Janeiro, produced with our product more than 4 million invoices in one billing cycle.
That's amazing. So what is next for the company? Where are you guys hoping to head?
We are planning more to integrate our solution in, it's called customer experience. I spoke before about customer communication management. Now this trend is moving a little bit forward to customer experience. For example, to adjust the document, the business document, to the customer needs. The customer, for example, can open the document in the notepad, can continue to edit in his laptop, and it can edit in his desktop. All this procedure, it's called omni-channel to support this kind of process.
Very interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming in. It seems like you guys have created something that is going to make the communication process all that much easier.
Thank you very much.
Your garbage can end up being gold, and some Israeli investors have really taken that message to heart. They've just opened one of the most advanced waste treatment facilities in the world right here in Israel.
The plant is located right outside of Tel Aviv in the Dan region. Until this revolutionary new site went online, almost all of the garbage collected in the area was sent to a landfill in the Negev desert to rot. But now 1,500 tons of waste brought to the plant every day is being treated in a far more environmentally friendly way. After being sorted, all organic material like disposed of food is taken to the Jordan Valley and converted into fertilizer. Things made out of wood, metal, or cardboard are brought for recycling at other facilities. Plastic products amount to about a third of the waste. They get shredded and melted into a less polluting form of fuel, and this refuse-derived fuel is then used to power ovens at the Nesher Cement Company, which is one of the waste plant's own investors. All in all, this $109.7 million green facility is able to successfully transform about two-thirds of all of man's garbage it gets into gold.
Isn't that the expression? All right, guys, Mexico is giving a warm homecoming to the oldest Jewish document of the New World, which has finally been returned to Mexico City after mysteriously vanishing more than 75 years ago. The document is considered to be an important artifact detailing Jewish life on the North American continent during the 16th century. The manuscript disappeared from Mexico's National Archives without a trace almost a century ago before unexpectedly resurfacing on the auction circuit in 2015.
Están en muy buen estado, tomando en consideración que tienen más de 400 años y fueron conservados de manera idónea.
The document is the memoir of Luis de Carvajal and dates back to 1595. The Mexican Jew wrote his autobiography under an alias after being forced to convert to Christianity during the Spanish Inquisition.
Eran 3 manuscritos elaborados durante la época virreinal novohispana que contienen información relacionada con el proceso inquisitorial efectuado a fines del siglo XVI en contra de la familia de Luis Carvajal por ser acusados de judaizantes.
Carvajal was imprisoned awaiting trial when the diary was discovered by a cellmate and turned over to the authorities. The manuscript's collection of Jewish prayers and psalms is now set to be displayed to the public.
Estas piezas se exhibirán en el Museo de la Memoria y Tolerancia como una expresión de la importancia de la presencia judía en nuestro país y también de la necesidad de arribar a una concepción tolerante, plural, diversa, que reconozca, como se ha dicho, esta condición pluricultural de México.
Sadly, there was no such appreciation for religious diversity during the Inquisition. After discovery of his memoir and true identity, Carvajal was severely tortured. Some historians say he cracked under the pain and revealed the names of more than 120 other secretly practicing Jews. The manuscript's author was ultimately executed for his Jewish faith in 1596. All right, Israel organizes many youth visits to Poland so the next generation is able to become educated about the horrors of the Holocaust firsthand. Unfortunately, the students have to raise a great deal of the funding themselves, and one group decided to do so by working at an archaeological dig. Lo and behold, they've already helped unearth an incredible find.
240 11th grade students from a Jerusalem high school have been taking part in excavating a 2,000-year-old Jewish town just outside of the capital. The students helped to unearth an impressive labyrinth of underground tunnels experts say were used by rebels during the Bar Kokhba revolt.
רשות העתיקות עושה פה פרויקט מדהים. בעצם התלמידים של בויר מגיעים לפה לחפירה של שבוע, הם עובדים כמו פועלים, אנחנו מתייחסים אליהם בשיא הרצינות, ובעצם הם מממנים את המסע שלהם לפולין בחפירה. הקשר בעיניי בין החפירה שלנו לבין מסע לפולין הוא קשר ישיר. התלמידים האלה, רגע לפני שהם הולכים לחפש את הזהות היהודית שלהם, הישראלית שלהם, הם מתחילים אותה פה בלחפור ולחפש בקרקע את העבר הרחוק שלנו, מאיפה הם באים, מה הנוף שלנו, מה התרבות שלנו, מי היו אנשים לפנינו. אנחנו עוד שכבה אחת בתוך כל השכבות הארכיאולוגיות האלה שהם חופרים.
They even found intact ceramic jars and cooking pots, likely to have last been used by the Jewish fighters. The most stunning discoveries so far, though, are 8 private ritual baths equipped with cisterns and basins in what were once private residences. This reveals the ancient inhabitants were devoutly religious and strictly adhered to biblical commandments governing purity. Dating techniques show the village managed to exist even after the destruction of Jerusalem in the year 70. One of the officials sponsoring the dig says that both present and past came together for the students during the experience. He added that nothing can be more positive than learning about failed attempts to annihilate the Jewish people while remembering the many generations of the past and strengthening ties to the land of Israel.
אני חושבת שזה קודם כל טוב מאוד, כי זה מוציא אותך מהמסגרת הרגילה של רק לשבת בכיתה וללמוד. ובעצם קצת לעשות דברים אחרים ושונים.
זה באמת מדהים, שאנחנו יכולים גם לחקור את הארץ שלנו ולגלות דברים ולעשות דברים במו הידיים שלנו, וגם ככה אחר כך לטוס ועוד יותר לקשר את זה לשואה, למשהו שאפשר להגיד אולי גם מביא אותנו לפה, וזה מאוד סוגר מעגל מאוד יפה.
The Hebrew word of the day is brought to you by the University of Haifa, Hebrew Summer Ulpan, open to everyone.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Today we learned about an ancient Hebrew document being returned to Mexico a full 75 years after its disappearance. So today's word is mismach, meaning a document. There are all sorts of mismachim, or documents, that we use every day. You fill out mismachim at the doctor's office, you may be required to show your mismachim in a border crossing, and when you graduate from university, you get a mismach universita, or a college degree. Without thinking, we even sign our names on hundreds of terms and conditions, mismachim too. After all, we wouldn't want a silly mismach to come between us and our favorite apps. Now, no matter how you decide to deal with mismachim in your life, just remember to always read the fine print and keep copies. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 51 or 11 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow you can expect it to be partly cloudy again, but with a slight drop in temperatures to a high of 70 or 21 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.62 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching and see you next time.